Max had always been fascinated by the wilderness and spent most of his days exploring the forest that surrounded his small rural village in Russia. As a skilled hunter, he knew the forest like the back of his hand and spent most of his time tracking and hunting prey. One morning, Max set out early into the forest, determined to get a good start on his hunt. A few customers had asked him to bring back some fresh meat and he was running low on supplies himself. As the morning wore on, the sun started to rise higher in the sky, casting an ethereal glow on the forest around him. As the sun reached its peak in the sky, Max decided to take a break for lunch. He had already hunted a few birds and decided to cook one over a small fire he had made. As he sat and ate, he couldn't help but feel a sense of peace and contentment in this magical place. But little did Max know that his love for the wilderness would lead him to a situation that would change his life forever. As he finished his lunch and packed up his things, he noticed a clearing ahead of him filled with light. Intrigued, he headed towards it, hoping to rest and take in the beauty of the forest. But as he entered the small clearing, he never could have expected to find what he did. Standing in the middle of the clearing was a tiger, its golden eyes fixed on Max as he emerged from the trees. Max froze in fear, his hand instinctively reaching for his gun. But despite catching the man off guard, the tiger didn't seem to want to attack. In fact, it was acting very calmly, almost as if it was waiting for something. Taking the tiger's behavior as an opportunity, Max slowly raised his gun and leveled it at the beast, hoping to deter it from attacking. But to his surprise, the tiger didn't move, simply staring back at him with a confused expression. Not wanting to shoot the beautiful creature if it posed no actual threat, Max slowly lowered his gun and began to creep towards the animal. As he got closer, Max noticed that the tiger was female, her teats full of milk. This meant that she had cubs nearby, a realization that filled Max with both fear and curiosity. He also noticed that the tiger was limping, its hind leg clearly wounded. Worried about the tigress's health, Max softly called out to her as he got closer, hoping to calm her. To his surprise, the tiger stopped growling and allowed him to get within a few feet of her. As he approached, Max realized that the tigress's wound was much worse than he had thought. It looked as if someone had tried to shoot the poor animal, and the wound had become infected. Max's heart went out to the tiger and he tried to help her, but she kept him away with her growls. Just as Max was starting to lose hope, the tigress did something truly extraordinary. She turned and started to walk away towards the edge of the clearing, but stopped just as she reached the trees. It was at this point that Max began to hear small mewls and growls. He realized with a start that these were the tigress's cubs. The adult big cat gently picked one of her babies up from the ground and limped her way back towards Max. Once she had reached him, she gently set the cub down at his feet and then went back to retrieve a second cub, leaving it right next to the first one. Max was incredibly confused and astonished by what was happening. He had no idea what the tigress wanted him to do with her cubs, and he was too afraid of what she might do if he tried to touch them. As Max stood there, unsure of what to do, the tigress turned and began to walk away from the hunter and her cubs. Max was shocked and tried to tell the animal to stay, but she simply disappeared into the forest. Left alone with the two tiny cubs, Max had no idea what to do. He knew that he couldn't just leave them there, but he also didn't want to risk the tigress's wrath if he tried to take them with him. As he stood there, trying to decide what to do, he heard a loud growl from deeper in the forest. His heart racing, Max realized that the tigress must have been fighting a grizzly bear for territory and had left her cubs with him for safety. Knowing that he couldn't just abandon the cubs, Max made up his mind and carefully picked them up, cradling them in his arms. As he began to make his way back to the village, Max couldn't help but feel a sense of responsibility for the two tiny lives in his arms. He knew that he had to find a way to care for them and keep them safe. Over the next few days, Max worked tirelessly to care for the cubs, feeding them and keeping them warm. As they grew stronger, he realized that he had developed a deep bond with the animals and couldn't imagine life without them. As the weeks passed, Max began to wonder if he would ever see the tigress again. He had grown attached to the cubs and was grateful for the chance to care for them. But he couldn't help but feel a sense of guilt for taking them from their mother. But one day, as he was out hunting, Max heard a faint growl in the distance. His heart racing, he followed the sound until he came across a clearing where he saw the tigress, her golden eyes fixed on him. But to his shock, the animal was clearly injured. her hind leg still wounded and her body weak. Without hesitation, Max rushed to the tigress's side and began to treat her wounds. Despite her initial growls of protest, the animal seemed to sense Max's kindness and allowed him to help her. As he worked, Max couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude towards the tigress. She had trusted him with her cubs and he had done his best to care for them. And now, as he helped her, he knew that their bond was stronger than ever. After several days of treatment, the tigress's wounds have fully healed and she was ready to be reunited with her cubs. Max could see the happiness in her eyes as he brought the cubs to her and watched as she gently picked them up and began to lead them back into the forests. As the tigress disappeared into the trees with her children, Max couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness and loss. But he knew that it was time for them to go and that he had been given a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to connect with the wilderness and its creatures. And as he made his way back to the village, he knew that his love for the forest and its inhabitants would always be a part of him. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more amazing animal stories. Until next time, stay wild.